ideally, you have sprints of experiments. So you might shorten your 2-week sprints down to 1 week, and then you have the whole team executing on a couple an idea or a couple different ideas. But it kind of depends on what level of experimentation you're at. I think you need, and I think this is where we get stuck with Agile as well, which I just like tweet ranted yesterday. But a lot of time when we do Scrum teams, we put together like a team of 9 people, which might be too many people for an early stage product, right? If you don't know what you're building, why you're building, or what the problem is, dedicating 9 people to something sounds like a business mistake, first of all. But it's also a logistical constraint, because now you have all these developers and people go, what do I do with them? I have to keep them busy. And then they just start feeding them stuff to do because they're expected to release every 2 weeks, which to me is not right. So if you have early stage products, we have to start talking about what's the ideal team size as well in that validation phase. So to me, I found success working with like 1 designer, maybe 2 developers, or 1 full stack developer. It depends on how big the technical problem is you're solving, and the product manager, myself. So we take that small team and we experiment on everything together. We're learning together. We're talking to customers together. We're divvying up the work. The developers are looking into technical implications of what we're doing. So we're all working on these experiments together, and we might use a sprint structure at that time of, okay, Mondays we're going to plan, and then we'll go into developing it, and we'll learn, and we'll do that. Sometimes it's more organic and we don't even use sprints. Sometimes we just plan and ship faster than every 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes a month to do that because we have very technical, complex products. So I think it's about getting your team size right for the first part, and then bringing on more people as the space gets a little more validated. And it's not about throwing everything over. It's about organically forming your team around your problem and keeping those people with the knowledge on it, and then bringing in more people to support it as you go. If you are stuck though, and this is where most people I see going through agile transformations are stuck. Once you have that team, you don't want to change it all the time. So if you change projects, what we normally do is we'll have things that we're trying to experiment around and learn, and then we'll maybe have like technical debt or other projects that we have to lay down. And we'll get into this cycle where we are having like a small team kind of do the experimentation out of that. And they'll be working in the sprint cycles or outside of the sprint cycles to really learn. And the developers, some of the developers will be working on tech debt. But what we do is involve those developers along the way in it. So like maybe twice a week, 3 times a week, we have a brainstorming meeting, or we have a readout of and a synthesis of the customer information we learned. We'll have the data. So it's not that we're throwing anything over to the developers. They still the people still working on tech debt still do work, still help us, still talk to customers if they want to talk to customers. It's up to them. And we still advise them on where we're going. We still get their input on what we should be doing. It's just that they might be spending 70% of their time on tech debt and 30% of their time with an experiment, whereas other people might be spending more like 70% of their time with the experiment and 30% aiding the people going through the tech debt. So we try to divvy it up slightly more like that. But I think if you have a small enough team, when you're just looking for the space, everybody can work and integrate into the sprint cycles and do that. And then you'll need kind of a certain level every sprint as it becomes more defined what you're building and validated. You won't need as much upfront research. You won't need as much research going into it. You won't need as much brainstorming because it's pretty defined what we're going to do. But you still do need those check-ins as a team to get there, get together, try to figure out what we're doing, plan it out, vision for what the sprint's going to be, look at the goals, brainstorm what you're going to be building, and then go into it. And I see a lot of teams skip that once they get into repeatable 2-week Scrum cadences. And to me too, like Scrum, like they say, Scrum is a framework. And I see a lot of companies new to Scrum go, okay, we just do back-to-back 2-week sprint schedules forever. So I'm like, when do you stop and think about, did we reach something or reset or start a new project? And we don't do that. We just have people jump into sprint schedules. So in Agile, like the most important foundation of Agile and principle that you ever look into it, whether it's Scrum or Agile as a whole, is we inspect and adapt our processes. So if you reach a point where Scrum is not working for you, or a 2-week sprint cycle is not working for you at that point, you should be inspecting and adapting your process to work around that area. And I think teams don't do that enough, and they really should.